Well, my name is Ron Suther, and I'm a farmer here in northeast Kansas, around the town of Blaine, and I produce corn, soybeans, and wheat. And we operate under the name of R&R Suther Farms. It's a family partnership involving my father and myself and my brother. And then I have some younger, my son is involved in the farm too, so the next generation's involved. I think there's room for both large and small operations, and we kind of need both. The small operations in many cases can kind of interlock and interchange and network with the larger operations and do to some extent. Like in our case, we take care of some small pigs. We're one of several farms that raise pigs for another large pig farmer. He has many people taking care of his pigs for him, and it helps us. It gives us something to do and gives us an extra enterprise, and of course it helps him by just having the labor and management ability to accomplish it. Well, I know that there's a lot of talk about the GMOs in the popular press, and a lot of urban folks don't maybe quite understand what's going on with GMOs, but it's nothing new really. I mean, it's been going on since the dawn of agriculture. I mean, it's been going on for tens of thousands of years. The only thing is now they've been able, with the use of laboratory practices and procedures, we've been able to speed up the process a little bit. But corn, you know, originally was a grass that came out of South America and didn't produce very much grain at all. But the Native Americans started modifying the genetics, if you will, by raising different forms of the corn and only saving the seeds from the highest producing ones, and finally got it to where it actually produced an ear of some size, and we're able to take off with that now and go way faster with modern laboratory procedures. But there's nothing unsafe about genetically modified plants. They're very much more productive, and right now the companies that produce the seeds are working on things like corn that can produce the same yields with 20% less water. And another company is working on producing corn that can produce similar yields with 20% less fertilizer. And they've already done a lot of those things along those lines, but a lot of the corn is able to be produced with less insecticide because of the GMO as well. So, it's really making the environment safer by using these GMOs, and much more production. There's no possible way you can, the world in general, the population is such that we need more and more food, and in the next 20 years we'll have to double the amount of food production. There's no possible way to do it without GMOs. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're totally safe. Monsanto and a lot of the other companies that have received a black eye for producing GMOs, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous because it's really what we need. But they're in communication with farmers. They attend these farmer meetings and farm organization meetings, and they kind of feel out what farmers are needing or what we need to do to produce more, and then they try to work along those fronts. And moisture is a very limiting factor in many parts of the world, and that's one of the leading things they're working on, is how to get the same production or maybe even increase production with less and less water. And that would take forever to do naturally, but with the help of laboratory and greenhouse production, they can keep cranking those through faster and faster, and keep by doing their methods of experimentation and trial and error, you eventually come up with some plants that are able to produce the same amount of grain with notably less moisture. Of course, computers have come into the farm like everywhere else, and all the records are now computerized, and there's a lot of computerized technology involved in all the farming operations with the cropping, where we have, of course, GPS guidance and yield mapping, and everything is GPS referenced that happens in the farm fields now. And this helps in management, and of course, the computers are involved in keeping all of these records and being able to produce these numbers and the data whenever it's needed to cross-reference and to make overlapping maps and overlaying maps and kind of point out where things need to change or where improvements could or should be made. None of this was going on 20 years ago. Of course, some of the crops have improved. 20 years ago, corn around here, we didn't hardly raise any corn because it just didn't get enough moisture to raise corn in this area, but through genetically modified improvements, we now can produce an average of 140 bushel corn in this area. And that was unheard of 20 years ago. Soybeans, we produce 60 bushel soybeans quite commonly. 50 bushel kind of as an average, and that was more like 30 bushel 20 years ago. And there again, it's due to better seeds and better farming practices overall, just becoming more efficient and using better inputs and so forth. The machinery has modernized and allowed farmers to farm more and more land with less and less laborers, and that's part of the reason that's happening. But we are going to have to keep some young people involved. Now, yeah, in my case, I do have some of my children who seem to be interested in farming. One's already joined, and another might. But yeah, and that's a big plus, and that's very good for us. But we have some neighbors who are maybe not that lucky, and they still enjoy what they do, and in the end, they'll probably they'll find some young person who is interested in farming and take them under their wing and help them get established. It may not, probably won't be a family person, but it'll be somebody that they like and respect, and the feeling will be mutual, and it'll work out. And a lot of those situations are just as good.